Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and this is the Acer Aspire Switch 10, which is basically a 10-inch notebook with Windows 8 software and an Intel Atom Bay Trail processor. Sells for about $379 and up, although you can sometimes find it for lower prices than that. But the reason it's called the Switch 10 is because it's not just a notebook, it's also a tablet. You can just sort of pull it right out there. It's got a magnetic hinge, slides into place, lines up perfectly, and docks nice and sturdy. It's not going to fall apart there. And you can even pull it out, flip it around, and it's reversible. You can dock it this way and use it as a sort of presentation or kiosk style system. It's running the full Windows operating system. You can see we've got support for multitasking for traditional desktop style applications. And in terms of specs, it's got an Intel Atom Z3745 quad-core Bay Trail processor, 2 gigs of RAM. This particular model has 64 gigs of storage on a solid-state drive. It is also available with 32 gigs, and it's Windows 8.1 32-bit and multi-touch display. So there's your sort of basic specs. It's nice-looking little machine. It's got fairly thin design here, and it's reasonably thin and light and easy to carry. It's got a power button, volume button, headphone jack here, and on the keyboard section you can see a full-size USB port. I believe that's USB 2.0 port. On the other side of the tablet we've got USB, HDMI, micro SD card slot, power, and a microphone. There's a front-facing camera here, but there is no rear camera, so if you were going to use it for video calls or something like a notebook, that makes sense, but you're not necessarily going to be able to lift this up and hold it like a large camera. There's also stereo speakers front-facing, which is a nice touch here. It has a sort of fake metal look to it. It's not actually metal, it's painted grayish, but it's a nice looking device, especially compared with some of the other 10-inch 2-in-1 systems that I've seen. The keyboard section, nice large touchpad, almost full-size keyboard. It's not quite full-size, but it's pretty easy to type on. And it's not a premium keyboard. It doesn't have backlit keys. There's a little bit of flex towards the center. And I don't love Acer's placement of these arrow keys and home and page and volume keys because they're sort of half height here. This is something that Acer's been doing for years on its 10-inch devices, and it's a way to cram a lot of keys into a small space, but I find that I sometimes hit the wrong one by accident. If this is your only device or one of your primary devices, you probably won't have that problem. I've been testing this for a little over a week. Acer sent me a review unit, and I've been sort of flipping back and forth between this and other laptops and other desktop computers, and so I find that it's a little disconcerting going into this particular keyboard layout. In terms of performance, let's take a quick look here. Like I said, it's a full desktop style application or operating system, but you've also got support for touch-friendly modern apps, so you can load up Netflix here. If you wanted to, you could plug in an external display and play a video while you're doing something else. You can do side-by-side, even desktop-style apps and Metro-style apps, or just switch back over. So in terms of responsiveness, I'm pretty impressed with Intel's Bay Trail platform, and I have been since it came out in the latter half of 2013. Performance is much better than what you would have expected from an Intel Atom chip from a couple of years ago. So while this guy looks like a netbook, you can use it for serious work. It's got a 1366 by 768 pixel display, which I tend to prefer a larger one if I want to be running lots of applications at the same time in small windows. But it's good enough for basic tasks. And on a 10-inch screen, anything sharper almost feels like overkill some of the time to me. At least when you're using Windows, because Windows desktop-style applications can be hard to use sometimes when the screen's too sharp on a small screen. Let's take a quick look here at a video playback. It's going to run it down a little bit faster and playing games and other CPU-intensive tasks. So handles HD video just fine. I haven't found any videos that I can't play reasonably well on it. It's going to run down your battery probably a little faster if you watch a lot of videos. And that's really sort of overall, it's a pretty impressive device in terms of performance and minimize you. My only real complaint about this guy is the battery life. It's very similar in terms of size and performance to the Asus Transformable T100, which came out a while back. And that model is already on sale for significantly less. You can find multiple versions of that. The 64 gig version often goes for around $349, whereas the 64 gig version of this sells for $429. But the Asus model gets around 8 hours of battery life, or maybe even more depending on how you're using it. This model, I found that I get about 4 to 5 hours of battery life when I'm using it as a laptop. You might be able to squeeze a little bit more if you're doing just sort of tablet type applications, if you were, say, using it with the Kindle app to read books or just to read news or do a little bit of web surfing on the couch without the keyboard plugged in. But when I've been using it with a web browser open, a dozen browser tabs side by side, doing some image editing, and resizing, cropping, and so forth. That's sort of what I do on a day-to-day basis. 4 to 5 hours seems to be about as much as I can get. Now, the good news is the travel, well, it's not even the travel charger. The charger that comes with this guy fits in the palm of your hand. I mean, it's a fairly compact charger. So as long as you are going to be able to get to an outlet, 4 to 5 hours of battery life can be extended just by plugging it in. It's not a micro USB charger, but it's also not a full power brick like you would get with a typical laptop computer. Let's see, the only other thing that I really wanted to point out here in this review is it's a little top heavy, so while it opens to a nice wide angle here, it's going to fall over if you open it all the way up. Right here, you should be fine. So odds are you're not going to try to type like this anyway. It's not really that big a deal, but seems a little bit silly that it is capable of doing that. That said, overall, it's a pretty nice device, has great viewing angles, a good screen, nice screen brightness. When I've been watching videos, I've noticed that you can sort of tilt it to just about any angle without losing color saturation, which is nice. So it makes a good media playback machine. You can use it for some light casual games from the Windows Store or other places. And it makes a nice little laptop replacement. So for at $379 or cheaper, I've seen it at $349 already. It's not a bad device, and it's nicer looking, I would say, than the Asus Transformerbook T100. But the T100 gets significantly better battery life and sells for a little bit less. So if I was going to choose between this and the T100, I would probably choose the T100, but they're both pretty good machines that offer very similar performance. You can find more details at liliputing.com, and this is Brad Linder with Liliputing and a video review of the Acer Aspire Switch 10, which is a 10-inch tablet notebook 2-in-1 convertible with a reversible display.